Good evening, everybody, and happy Thursday night from Unlock the Middle here. We have a great cast once again, and we come together on Thursday nights to talk about leadership issues that we all can get a little better with. My name is Dean Packard, one of the co-founders of Unlock the Middle, and I get excited on Thursday nights because this is where I get to meet my cohorts in the business from all different states around the country and see the fact that we are dealing with the same things, and yet outcomes can become better by putting our heads together and dealing with stuff. Again, great to have you all here tonight. Josh Tovar, my buddy from Texas below. Josh, how are you, my friend?
Hey everybody, Josh Tovar, proud principal of Memorial Pathway Academy in Garland ISD, Garland, USA. Ready to rock and roll here in the red zone, scoring some touchdowns. It's almost the end of football season, but the learning and the scoring of touchdowns never stops. We have great guests, reached out to them. They said yes, bring their knowledge to the table. So real quick, gentlemen, just real quick, 5-10 seconds, name and state you're in, and then we'll go into the origin story of your background. Daryl, talk to us.
Yeah, Daryl Porter, and I am in Fort Worth, Texas.
Charlie
Bachram in Princeton, Minnesota.
Joel.
My name is Joel Leal, and I am in Houston, Texas.
And Efrain.
Efrain Martinez, Chicago, Illinois.
All right, and everybody, the show, The Red Zone, is about learning from each other, our experiences, our past. But you know what? Just like the Marvel universe making gazillions of dollars, it's always about the origin story. We have some kid right now in college wanting to be either an administrator or a teacher, right? So this is what's out there. This is beautiful because this is their generation to get into podcasts, to get into this whole thing. So tell the audience your origin story from where you started to your current role. And we'll start off there with Joel. Talk to us about your origin story.
All right, so I am actually an immigrant originally from Mexico. So I got here 19 years ago as a bilingual teacher. So I taught upper elementary. My first administrative job was assistant principal at a sixth grade campus. So I kind of know the middle school, atmosphere. After that, I continued as an AP in elementary, and now I'm a principal at what we call an early childhood academy. So we have 600 plus little ones in pre-K and kindergarten. Right. That's right. That's about right, Josh. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. So it is busy days, but we're doing great work. We're laying the foundation for these kids to go to elementary school. We want them to be ready. So that's where we are. So 19 years in education, and bilingual education is my background.
Thank you, Joel. And now we're going to point up to the stars, the opposite end. Daryl, talk to us.
Yeah, 17 years in education. Started off coaching and teaching. Actually had the opportunity to coach and teach at my hometown. But, there's a song out there that says you're always 17 in your hometown. And that, that was a one and done thing. So I moved on and kind of coached all over the state of Texas. I was in San Antonio for a little bit. I was in Austin for a little bit, went back all the way up to the DFW Metroplex. Ended up getting out of coaching after about 10 years, pursued administration, was an assistant principal for 2.5 years. Ended up taking over a high school. About 5 years ago, and then transitioned to central office as a CTE director and PTech, what they call PTech coordinator, the Pathways Technology or Early College High School. Did that, and then actually back into the high school principalship. So kind of ran the gamut, but all 17 years at the secondary high school level.
Awesome, great. Yes, Will?
I forgot to represent. So I'm in Sheldon ISD. Sheldon ISD is within the Houston area. It's a middle-sized district, but go Sheldon, go Panthers.
There we go, Joel. I'm glad you're repping right there. And we have a brand new team member from a new part of the country. Charlie, talk to us.
Yeah, my name's Charlie Bacher. I'm actually coming from, like I said, Princeton, Minnesota. I got my start, like Daryl, I started out in my hometown teaching and coaching. I haven't heard it quite put like that, Daryl, where you're 17. But I think my biggest growth, I was really appreciative to grow as a teacher, really with the mentorship of a lot of people who helped me out as a student too. And that was really great as a teacher and coach. Moved on to another district, mostly taught high school English and with middle school English as well. and then got my start in the Sartell School District, kind of near St. Cloud, Minnesota, for a couple years as a high school AP. Came back down to where I live, which is in St. Michael, and I taught there for a number of years. Back into that district, came on as an AP there, and then have just begun my third year as the principal at Princeton Middle School. We're about 750 students, 6'8" building. We do have a Spanish immersion program within the building, so great to see a bilingual background here. Super great learning, and really fun to be getting that going. We're in our second year in our building of that. It's come to us through K-5 came to us last year for the first time, and we're into our second year of it, and growing that into a K-8 program. So those are some things that have been kind of big on our list of things to do. And in a district that's just slightly outside the Twin Cities area, it's a really great way to just see the kids coming into, you know, a bigger global understanding and just the excitement there. So 23 years total in education as a teacher and administrator.
That is so awesome. And our friend, Dr. Efrain Martinez, what do you bring to the table?
So honored to be here. Efrain Martinez. I live in Chicago, Illinois. I'm originally from Puerto Rico. Like Joel, I moved to the United States as a teenager. I started my career as a high school Spanish teacher, thinking that was my destination, and it was not good. Then I taught the little kids, which is a beauty, but that was not good either. But my quirkiness just matched with the middle school students, and that's where I stayed. I was a principal in Chicago Public Schools, Orozco Academy, where we taught that when you do good things happen. And after that, I was recruited to work in Highland Park, Illinois. That is about 1 hour north of Chicago. And I work in District 112, Northwood Middle School. Go Huskies! About 540 students. And I do my artistic endeavor as a podcaster of the podcast Wisdom and Productivity.
Thank you very much, Efrain. And real quick, there's this guy up here. He also has a podcast, couple old series. Can you talk to us real quick? The name of your podcast, Daryl?
Yeah, we have actually a couple of them. One of them, when I was a CTE director, and it's kind of on hold right now. But when I was CTE, we called it Bridged, and really it was bridging the gap between K-12 education and industry, trying to just connect the two. Really, we need each other. And then the next one, I started with a couple of guys called the Texan Connection. Matter of fact, we started it over COVID, and we went through a year of podcasting without ever meeting physically. And so we've met. Matter of fact, gosh, I'm gonna pause it because I just got the two guys, Dr. Jeff Springer and Marty Silverman, who's from San Antonio. Dr. Springer's from Houston. And I just received his book in today. And so I wanted to give a shout out to Dr. Springer for that. So excited about that. But yeah, those are the two podcasts. And I'm always looking forward to learn about, you know, the great things that other people are doing.
Thank you.
You know, those podcasts are just something that we all started experiencing, you know, and doing during COVID. And I'll tell you what, there's nothing better than reaching out and just kind of articulating out your thoughts, what you do, and then getting that perspective back. You know, and I'm kind of still stuck on that quirkiness match the middle school level. Friend, I love that because I've been in a middle school principal now for 20 years, in a business for 30, and I couldn't envision myself probably being anywhere else than in the middle student between 10 and 14. So I love to hear all that stuff. Yeah. Nevertheless, guys, there's always somebody that inspires us to be who we are in education. I want you to think for a second, who is that person in your line that has helped you develop you becoming the best you are in this business? And Charlie, why don't you start off for us? Yeah,
you know, it's kind of a little bit of a interesting deal. Probably to say one is tough. My parents were both educators, and I grew up seeing my mom be the last, 30 years in teaching, the last person out the door, staying late. And I think the work ethic, she's a farm girl, grew up on the farm, and that farm work ethic stuck with me. And my dad would be as a student, when I learned about him, I realized he was the kind of guy who was probably in the at-risk category. His folks were in and out of the picture. And so a man that I've never met is probably a person that I look at, someone who single-handedly changed the trajectory of my life, my family's life. His name's R.P. Glenn, and he found a loophole. My dad had no plans to go off to college. He was up in northern Wisconsin, and he found a loophole to get him a scholarship where he went on, and my dad became an educator that kind of got, I mean, we had kids stopping by the house to play ball and things like that all the time because they just knew that he cared. And I didn't really know why I was sharing my dad growing up until I realized that he had people from just various situations helping him along the way. And so I guess I've always sought people like that, you know, have kind of thought of kids in their building as an opportunity of maybe this is the kid who one single thing might just spark them. You just never know what it's going to be. And so, and then I think the other one would just be a principal by the name of Bob Driver, who's now the executive director of the Association of Minnesota. He was an AP who I think he gave time. I just think of all the time he spent to help get me into leadership and take me under his wing. So I know that you were asking for one, and I did the typical English teacher answer of giving you like 7. But hey, he did the system on the first one. You guys can call me out if I do it again.
You know, I love that you said that because there are a plethora of people that helped us all get to where we are. There's no doubt about it. You know, the influencer that you think about the most is that individual that you go back to now and then, especially during tough times. So thanks for sharing that, Charlie. Joel, you're up next.
Yeah, well, I've been fortunate to work under very, very good principals. A couple of them come to mind: Stephanie Davis, Debbie Romans. The main thing that they did for me that inspired me is just giving me the opportunity to participate in what they were doing, leading me or trying to make me a better leader by, you know, just allowing me to participate. But what really, really inspires me the most, and I'm not going to name names because it's too many, the teachers that I work for every day, when I go into their classrooms and I see what they're doing, or when I'm walking down the hallway at 7 p.m. and I see a teacher trying to get ready for the next day, that really inspires me to try to be a better leader and try to be there for them and support them. That's the inspiration I get from them, because they're doing a lot of selfless work for our children. And a lot of times, often, it is not appreciated by everyone. You know, I know that they get appreciation here and there, but sometimes there's days when, you know, we don't get the appreciation that we deserve, meaning teachers. And so that really inspires me.
Well, the wind behind our wings is no doubt about that. I love that you recognize the educators in your world, because they are the people that fuel what we do every single day. Efrain.
Well, I had a principal, and I was always in her office. So I got
you in trouble? Were you in trouble?
Right, always in trouble. So I got to see like how she would work with other people as I was sitting there in the office, and with time that just stuck with me. And I have to appreciate her for wanting to be a principal, Miss Mendez.
I love it. Good. Miss Mendez, thank you very much. Daryl, you're up.
Yeah, I'm going to go in a couple of different levels. So I think it changes every time I, you know, meet new people. And I'm just going to start with my administrative career. When I was an assistant principal, you know, my principal, Stephanie Allen, really, like Joel said, she allowed me to experience the things that I wouldn't experience without that type of leadership. Oftentimes people, you know, they come up and they ask, hey, what's the secret? How do you get to, you know, to where it is? And honestly, my secret is, just like many other secret, is surrounding yourself with great leaders, right? It's not much that I've done outside of surrounding myself with great leaders. And so she was one of them. And then Dr. Michael McFarland, the superintendent, who saw something in me to take over my first school. And then my current influencer right now would be my current superintendent is Frank Molinar, who's been in the same district for 32 years, worked anything from custodian all the way up to superintendent. He's got the story that where his family moved from a bad situation. They slept in a park as a kid, went up through the school district that we were in, and he's been serving there for 32 years. Incredible story, and really, once again, see something in me. And you know, I learn a lot. So I think through stages of where I go, there's different leaders who influence me. I can't just choose one.
Daryl, I love that you said the fact that surround yourself with people that have made you better in regards to, you know what, you can't stop. And I've been in this business, like I said, 29 years. I still look to be around people who are smarter than me, who get things beyond my comprehension. And the teachers, the parents, anybody that's out there, people in our business, make sure you connect with them, talk with them, because what it does, number one, it keeps you humble. Number two, it reminds you of why you do what you do, because you're no better than anybody else that you work with. So I'm glad that you said that, because you got to lead by example. Josh.
Kind of disappointing, Daryl, that you didn't say Martin Silverman. I just want to.
We've had him on quite a few times. I love that guy. I love Martin.
He's the youngest, oldest guy we know.
We're all greenhorns after you have 30 years in the business. He makes sure he tells us.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm gonna touch base with him because he's got a podcast called The Second Question, and it's based off of his interview questions. And his second question is, "What teacher influenced you the most?" And so that question was perfect.
So, gentlemen, real quick, right now we've had the first semester under our belt, all the way to December. So, what adjustments are you seeing in your field at your level that you had to learn from fall? And right now you have to readjust your game plan for upcoming assessments in your state for whatever it might be happening in your geography. But you know what? You're going to find out that we're all facing kind of similar situations. So what adjustments are you making right now in spring, Efrain?
Well, I think that there is a crisis with children and their parents with phones. We have a lot of children that are needing a lot of attention, and children always need attention, but particularly now we have this lost generation that is having parents that are also involved. And I think as educators, we have to be very informed about Gen Z generation. What are their needs? What are their wants? And it's kind of a re-education of, we were taught that we go to a school and we provide this service, and the students are supposed to get the service and learn and do the homework and do all this kind of stuff. I think we had to readjust that in order to meet the needs of students.
Thank you very much, Efrain. Charlie, what are you looking up there in Minnesota?
I think, similarly to what Efrain was saying, I think the new world that we're trying to, it's that blend of, for a long time, it was really trying to get kids to use technology responsibly, and to be good consumers of it. And then some of the tells that we see, like we busted out games one time, just board games, and the kids were enthralled with it. They thought it was the greatest thing ever. And it just made me realize what opportunities there are, because they're almost getting to the point where they're dependent on phones and social media for that connectivity. But it's also they're grateful, even though they maybe don't articulate it that way, that when we're keeping the phones out of the cafeteria and other places like that, and they're actually forced on equal footing to talk with each other. And so I think getting them interacting, our teachers are so great at observing what is going on with them too. They can kind of pull it out of them and get them talking about it. And even the kids are saying, like, I don't want to be the only one. So when we do things and we make that concerted effort to keep technology free, we're a one-to-one district, so it sounds great, sounds like the greatest thing, but sometimes just putting the screens away and getting the kids face to face, so that it's not we're trying to get away from teachers being like the people pulling it out of the students and getting the students. I was in a classroom yesterday and the teacher was just masterful. The kids were talking to each other, taking turns, and that was something I haven't seen for a long time with that degree of fluency. And we're just trying to get there, I think, in terms of how we see kids interacting with each other, because they want to. It's there.
So from that whole mighty class of 2023, Daryl, what are you looking at?
Yeah, so I'm gonna shift gears a little bit, and I know, I mean, obviously the social media is big, and the technology, but this kind of stems from it. One of the adjustments, one of the things that we're trying to figure out is our restroom situation, right? Restrooms now tend to be used for more than just going to the restroom, and I mean, with the easy access of vapes. And TikTok trends that were big in prior years, we're having to readjust. We're having to figure out how to create that safer environment for all of our kids, and that's kind of a shift that's that's really kind of come up in the past 2 or 3 years, right? It's not, phones have been around for, at least since I was in high school, and social media has been around, I guess, since I've been in college, and um, but this thing of restrooms being used for more than just restrooms, I don't guess that's new, right? I mean, growing up, and you think of our dads, right, and our moms, and there were, I guess, 3 things that principals always dealt with, and that was what: smoking, fighting, and skipping, and just this epidemic of vaping, and having to adjust, and really creating that sense of education for not only our kids but parents of what this can do to a body, right? It's more than just catching kids. It's really prevention, and we want to make sure that that education's out there. So that's a new shift in education, at least in the secondary, and I would imagine some maybe in hopefully not, but maybe in elementary school as well.
Let's just
For
go a
sure.
little bit deeper into that. Daryl, what other? Obviously, we all know that vaping is one of the things, because parents, we're gonna catch a parent that's seeing this right now. They're scrolling and they're gonna stop. And Friday, we're stopping you right now in South Dakota. Hey, parent, these are some of the other things that are going on in the bathroom, which you need to have conversations with your kid about.
Yeah.
What other things are you seeing, Daryl?
Like in the restrooms, or
Yeah,
or
yeah.
yeah. No, here's the deal. We had to implement a rule where if we walk in, and we see more than one person in a stall, right, which is odd, right? You see more than one person in the stall, that's automatic discipline. And there a lot of kids are just gathering because they think that it's a place that, I guess, is away from everybody. We've kind of created our system to where we're continually checking, we're continually looking in, once again, I don't want to paint this picture of a 2,200 student high school that's out of control, because it's absolutely not. We have great kids, and we have a great community, I talk to a lot of high school principals from not only around the state but from around the nation, and these are issues. And the thing about, I think, great leaders is we don't just stop. I think that parent education of this is what's going on in the restroom. They're passing around. They're not, they're getting it from others. But a sign of great leaders, a great leader is we're not stopping there. Like, we're going to be relentless. And I always tell my staff, if you don't get the change of behavior that you want, then think about how our nation got us to put on seatbelts, right? It wasn't because people wrote tickets. It was because there was an annoying seatbelt ding. And so I tell my people, be the annoying seatbelt ding. You have to do that. That's how you change the behavior.
And just to piggyback on that, just for everybody out there in the United States, it's true what Daryl said. It's not a Texas thing. It's a whole United States thing. Dean, we've heard this in so many podcasts. So it's one of those things that there has to be true conversations going on, because now even cell phones are problems in elementaries. So I present to you, parent out there, and there's a lot of educator parents that I face conflicts with, because you're an educator, you're having a problem with your cell phone. And so let's have those conversations with kids to make sure that it creates a positive environment, not a negative, toxic environment. So on the opposite end of class of 2023 and high school bathrooms, let's go with Joel down there with the little ones.
I was just thinking about all these. I guess all of you are talking about technology and how it affects. I think all those issues in the restrooms and come from this new era of technology, and how people are just trying to find the next viral video, and kids are doing the same thing, and they're trying to find a place. And in the high school or the middle school case, it's the restroom where they go and record these things. In our world, of course, we're not dealing with state assessments, but right now what we're doing is trying to put in place a system of intervention that will help our students be prepared for the next level when they leave our building. But of course, thinking about it, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with students that their attention span is shorter and shorter and shorter. And we know that the little ones have short attention spans. But when they are, phones are the new babysitters. You see it when, a parent is trying to calm a child. Oh, okay, take my phone. Take my phone. Here's YouTube. Here you go. And these children are having these instantaneous gratification all the time. If they don't like a video in the first 20 seconds, they'll find another one. And so their attention span is shorter and shorter, and keeping their attention for teachers is harder and harder. So we're trying to find ways to, incorporate technology, like Josh said, make it because technology is a tool, very powerful tool that we can use to our advantage. But, we need a lot more education with parents and families, and, just to make sure that they, monitor what their kids are doing with technology, and trying to not use it in the way that a lot of people are right now, and trying to use it as a tool, because it's a tool. You have everything at your fingertips right there in your pocket. So I think just a little bit of education. But right now, what we're focusing on, back to the question, is that intervention system that will be very, very focused, so we can have as many kids ready for elementary school, not only academically but socially, and the way they do school. That's one of the main things that we teach at our level, how to do school, what's appropriate at school and what's not. So a lot of our students have never been in a group of children like this, especially coming out of what we're coming out of. So just teaching them how to do school and how to be in a classroom and be a learner. That's a lot of the work that we do.
Important.
Thank you.
Metacognition, learning to learn, is one of the biggest things that came out of post-COVID. And we have those talks all the time. I love you talking about the bathrooms. That's like the new social gathering place. What you left out in the middle school is that there's graffiti on the walls. There's body parts that I've never seen before in my life that I've been picking off every single day. They're hanging from the rafters. They're ripping things down, and they don't seem to get it. And that bothers me sometimes. And also, going back and circling back, you talk about the phone. And I had this conversation with my assistant principal and with one student in my school who's a reluctant learner. And he says to me, Mr. Packard, why can't I put my earbud in my ear, listen to the teacher, and do my work if that soothes me, if that keeps me focused? And you know what I said to myself? The old compliance engineer would have been like, because I said you can't do that because that's in the book. But guess what? Times are changing. The tools that the kids have today and they're growing up with need to be embraced and incorporated into their learning. And you know what he says to me? You know what? If I need to figure something out in math, I'm going to Google it. If I have to write something, I'm going to be able to look this up here. And I said, you're right. But in the meantime, I'm responsible to help you learn the standards from the state that they set forth. So you got to work with me. But I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. He's beyond his years. So sorry I get off on my tangent like that. But going back full circle here for a second, you guys sitting principals at this point in time, working with your staff, working within your buildings, what do you look for in, like, we'll say, an educational leader that might be above you, whether that's assistant superintendent, whether that's superintendent, and what type of things do you see in them that help you become better versions of yourself? Efrain, why don't you start off?
Well, I worked with a prestigious superintendent, Michael Lewelfeld, and what I see is his continuous energy to bring the best to the school district. And regardless of everything that is coming, he's always with a smile, he's always collaborative. And that gives me a lot of hope, right? Because when you're in a school building, all the crises, they're happening all the time, and sometimes imposter syndrome kicks in and you feel like, what the heck I'm doing, and you want to sometimes just like close the door and imagine that when you open, everything is going to be solved. And when you look at people above you, like Daryl was saying, it gives you a reminder that, hey, you know what, you're looking at your supervisor as someone above you, but someone else is looking you as above them. So you must remain calm, and you must remain making smart decisions that are collaborative and including everyone.
I love that. Calm being the number one word, again, from a leadership role, no matter what situation that you're dealing with. I love that. Daryl.
Yeah. So I recently saw a tweet, and I'm going to get to the tweet here in a minute, but this quote, but one of the things that I look for are leaders who are going to train other leaders, right? How are they, in the military, they're taught to train up their replacements. And that's a sign of a good leader, because there's not much ego there. There's enough to know that that there's a great balance. But also, I go back to, the school that I'm the principal at is Brewer High School, and I go back to, this school's been standing for 70 years, right? And it's because people have been training other people to keep it going. And so I like to surround myself with leaders who tend to do that, and I like to be a leader who trains somebody to take my position, because I'm not going to be in that position forever. And going back to the tweet, I always talk about this. There's a lot of people that talk about relationships, right? And so when we're talking to our people about relationships, it's simple. Be a decent human being to kids, right? I tell anybody that comes to work with us, I'm looking for really three things. Number one, I'm looking for somebody that's gonna work on the work that matters, right? We can be very hard workers, but not efficient, and so we need to be able to work on the work that matters. Number two, and we got to do that relentlessly, right? Our kids deserve it. Our communities deserve it, and that's what we're here for. And then number three, I need you to love our kids. And I can at the high school level, I know it's different at the elementary school level, but at the high school level, some high school teachers, it's starting to change, but some high school teachers say, you know what, I'm a biology teacher. And I say, that's great. I don't need you here. I need a teacher that's going to teach students, not biology. Right. And so I need you to teach students first and teach them the content. Right. So that's kind of what we look for as leaders in our district.
Josh, that's not the first time we've heard that statement, have we? Now, we teach students before content all the time, and I absolutely love that you brought that up, Daryl. Charlie.
I think, the thing that I've been real appreciative of, just in every situation where we're facing a decision that has to be made, it's just commonplace for people to really go to which leadership team. We have, 4 big rocks that we really base a lot of our decisions in, and it's just automatic to go to those folks. And it's not really a box to check as far as whose decision it is. It's kind of that continuum that you go by. The more it impacts people, the more you include those stakeholders in it. And our staff is the thing I really appreciate too, is that they also see that in the culture, that they'll bring things kids are saying to them, what they're hearing out of their kids into those meetings. And so if it isn't a direct line where we have some of our student leadership guiding us, I think that it's one where we're always, if we feel like the student voice is missing from it, we'll pause. There's so few decisions that have to be made quickly. They can be made with, I think with more heads put together. And there's just, I've appreciated that about my superintendent right now, is that he's always big on giving us enough time to go back to our leadership teams and talk with them, just to get the lay of things and to make sure that we're getting it right, because the details that they fill in are what make it go, not the decisions that we, grab out of the air.
Joel.
So what I'm looking for in my supervisors, or the people that run the district, is what I have. I am fortunate enough to work in a medium-sized district. We have one high school only, 2 middle schools. So basically 2 feeder patterns that are, going to that high school. But it is, our leaders are very approachable, and they are, like Daryl said, people that are trying to, what they call building up the bench, like trying to create other leaders that will take the places, because it's all the way down. It should be like that. I should be, trying to train people that will take over the school the day I'm not there. So Daryl is absolutely correct on that. I am also fortunate to work for an awesome superintendent. 7 years he's been in the district, but he's leaving a legacy in our district. I say he's leaving because he's retiring this year, so bittersweet, sweet for him, bitter for us. So he is retiring, but he's leaving a legacy, and I'm sure that he has built his bench within the cabinet, so the work continues. But I am very fortunate to have very approachable leaders that I can just pick up the phone and talk to them when I need something, or when I just to talk about leadership, for example, and just pick up the phone and just talk to them. So that is awesome.
Leaving a legacy, approachable, empowerment. Those are things, those are people that I want to work for, because those are the people who don't think of themselves. They think about what they're going to leave behind and the map they're going to create to help others be successful. That's the mark of a true leader through and through, regardless of anything else. Nothing has to be personal. When we get in the business, we're in the business together to make kids better, give better experiences, to help staff become the highest level of achievers that they can be. I love that. That's you guys are right on point with all the things that you said. Josh.
With the ever changing nature of our business, our profession, we're still flying that airplane. We're still building it right now with a teacher exodus, getting all the alt certs coming into our field. They're not coming from the traditional pathway of decades and decades. Obviously, professional development is one of those things that are crucial. A bunch of you began this journey on podcasts through the Rona. Dean and Chris did a great job creating this platform, different platforms, so that we get stronger together. So let me ask you, how do you feel podcasts, or how do you encourage podcasts amongst your sphere of influence? And also, what kind of conferences have you attended lately that we could all learn from, so that we plan our Title I money for next year to say, hey, you know what? I learned from Daryl this. I learned from Charlie this. We could go to this place, because it was a great influx of PD for our staff that made us a better version of ourselves. So talk to us about podcasting and how you promote it out there, and also about any conferences that you feel comfortable in sharing that can help all of the United States or the world. They might want to come in from Australia. Joel.
Well, like we said before, we need to go with the times. Podcasting is something very important, and I think the main thing that you get from all that is the connections that you make, because people that are creating podcasts, they're just trying to share their knowledge and learn from each other. So like you guys, you're approachable people. Connections that I'm making, is what I take from these things. So I think that's I try, on my Twitter. I'm not, I don't have a big Twitter account, but I try when I can to promote, being on Twitter to learn, not to do other things that a lot of people are doing on Twitter, but just to learn, to connect with other educators, not only in our state or in our city, but in the country or outside. I have a lot of people that I follow from other places, and you realize, like Daryl said earlier, it's issues that are happening everywhere. So it's the same issues that we're all battling. So why not just put our heads together and try to find solutions to it?
You got any conferences?
Lately, what we've been doing, our district is focusing on going back to the real true sense of PLC. So we've been going to the solution tree conferences. We went to the PLC conference in the summer. A lot of leaders in the district. Now we're thinking that we're going to bring teacher leaders to the next one, so we can continue our work. Obviously, we all know what a PLC is. We actually say, well, we have PLCs every Tuesday, but now what a real PLC, what the real work that goes on in a real professional learning community, not just calling a meeting PLC, but doing everything that we can to make sure that students learn and what to do when they are not.
Yes, we're not PLC light, we're PLC right. You can't go wrong with Mohammed and Matos. That's the cornerstone, baby. Efrain, talk to us. Podcast, conferences.
So when I started as a principal, I was doing terribly, and my conclusion was that I was not thinking about how my message was landing in the people that I was trying to lead, and that's how my podcast was born, Wisdom and Productivity. So I find luminaries or people that are successful in what they do, and ask them, what do they think about? What are they inspired by? Who are their influences? What do they read? And also, how do they get organized, right? Because it is a lot behind the scenes that happens before they see our six faces leading people. I use Wisdom and Productivity as a tool for my continuous professional development and professional learning. And it has been great. And in terms of conferences, I agree with Joel. My district sent me to the Solution Tree conference, and the one that struck me the most was Anthony Mohammed, when he described that we had two types of children with buffet experience and children without it. And what do we do about it?
Come on. Charlie, talk to us.
I think some of the things that have really guided our really coming back to some of the PBIS roots, when we saw kids so dysregulated coming back last year, and just getting back to teaching behavior as, as just common practice. Brene Brown was really her work with power with instead of power over. I think that it's been very liberating for staff to boil down. We've talked about really trying to boil down to behavior being a form of communication, that we need to understand that language that kids are speaking to us, and that they don't even know sometimes that it's what they're saying. And we've really come down to just studying, basically 5 human needs and what those needs are that are not being met. And then I think that the feeling and the pressure that people have lifted off of them when they know that they buy into the idea that you cannot control anyone. We aren't here to control people. We're here to build toolkits for them, and that's been a nice way to remove some of the fatigue that was happening, where we were taking things personally. We were ourselves tired, so we were just a little bit beaten down. And so that power with instead of power over was really powerful. We also with professional development, I attend the MASSP conferences. It's our Minnesota association that's put on in the summer. It's great time away, and some of the best professional development is doing what we're doing right now. Just a bunch of us talking together after the breakout sessions or over a meal or something like that. And then we've continued that work. Our central division of that, and in any of the divisions, have this available to them. We have PLCs where we meet with area principals together and talk about issues. We have an agenda. We keep the agenda, and we really come back to what you guys are talking about as well. And that really was powerful during the pandemic, because we weren't getting to see much more than, my secretary is maybe the most wonderful human being on earth, but it was her and I a lot of those days in distance learning, and our assistant principal and things like that. And just to be able to get out and hear different voices and different perspectives was really powerful, and it's carried with us now. We're meeting in person more often now and getting a chance to do that, but that's been really just a godsend for us.
Thank you for sharing, Charlie. Where I met that guy last summer, Daryl, TASSP. Talk to us, Daryl.
Yeah, definitely. Those conferences, TASSP, I had the opportunity to attend a Solution Tree PLC conference this year. Just got back from Midwinter, where I actually got to hear Brene Brown, Joe Sanfilippo. So there's a lot of great conferences out there. But I think the value in a conference really is larger than attending sessions, right? It's the networking piece. It's making sure that you get to give your information to others and learn from others. Now, I'm blessed to be at a high school with about 200 employees, and I tell everybody there, we can go to conferences all we want, but the expertise in this building is hands down, I think, the best, because we know us, right? When I was a coach, we used to go hear South Lake Carroll. I know many of you have heard of the South Lake Carrolls and the Alitos, those big time state champions in the state of Texas. We used to hear them, and I'll never forget. We're listening to one of the defensive coordinators, and he's drawing up some plays, and you got some offensive guys that saying, "What about this? What about this? What about this?" Trying to beat them with the pen. And finally, the coach says, "Okay, this guy runs a 4-3. This guy runs a 4-4. This guy runs a 4-3. This guy runs a 4-4. Beat that." Right. So I use that all to say, scheme and theory is great, but what does it look like on your campus? And because the 200 of us know us, we get to talk theory about what it looks like in our campus, not what it looks like on a different campus, because the campuses that you guys run, I know, are phenomenal campuses, and we can absolutely learn from you. But once we learn from you, we're going to take it up, we're going to bottle it up, We're going to package it and we're going to do it our way.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, think about this for a second. If you had an aspiring teacher that that you've pinpointed to be the next administrator in your district, we can't do this forever. We do need to be thinking about that next step for somebody. What advice would you give to them? Let's keep it really short. Let's go 30 seconds and just rock this right out here. Efrain, you're up.
An advice to what? Can you repeat that question?
I absolutely will. A person aspiring to get into the leadership role that you hold right now.
Beware. It's a long journey.
Fair.
But when you help people, karma is something that exists, and you will get all the blessings.
Fair enough. Joel?
Well, number one, start. I know this is cliche, but start building those relationships now. You're gonna need them when you're in a seat like ours. It's the loneliest seat in the building is our seat. So when you're gonna need those relationships, so start building those relationships. And like Efrain said, treat people right, because you're gonna need that too.
Love it, Charlie.
I think just really get to know your entire colleagues, staff, everybody, like you said, the relationships, and then know who your stars are, and I think protect your stars a little bit too. Sometimes we ride them hard and we take their skill set and we use it so much, but give them permission to take some time off, and whether that's literally or just to not be part of a decision-making situation or whatever, because we ride those folks really hard for the gifts that they bring to us. And so making sure we're checking on them and not going to the wall too many times on people, because sometimes it might even keep another aspiring leader that you didn't see as a star, and they step up. And so I think those are just the keys. Is you got stars in your building and know when to use them and know when to, encourage them to take some time.
Yeah, and not burn them out. Love it. Perfect. Good answer. Daryl.
I'm gonna say this in the form of a question. What are you doing now to make others see you in the position that you want? My son, who's 9, wants to be a professional baseball player. Oftentimes, how many pitches have you thrown today? Right? How many swings? How many times have you gotten the cages today? Right? Because you're not just going to magically do that. And so, a question that I'm always saying: what are you doing now in your current role to make others see you operating in the role that you want?
Yeah, perfect. That's great. And I'll tell you what, repetition builds consistency. So there's no doubt about that. Josh, a little touchdown.
Hey,
before we do that,
where can they, not yet, where can they reach you? Daryl, where can they reach you?
Yeah, definitely. Twitter at Dr._D Porter.
Charlie.
At Charlie Bacher on Twitter.
It's on the screen at Joel Leal EDU.
Efrain.
Wisdomandproductivity.com.
There you go. Hey, you know what, Dean? I think we did it again right before football season finishes. We scored another touchdown. Up the A gap, a dive, touchdown, state champions right here at Unlock the Middle. Hey, but it's not over, Dean. The flagship show. Another top star coming. Manny Scott joining us at
Manny Scott's coming on. Good.
Non-stop 5-star people coming to Dean and Chris's platform. So join us on and Unlock the Middle, 7 p.m. Sunday p.m. Ready to rock and roll. Yeah, there's something going on called the Super Bowl. I don't know, something like that going on. But Dr. Manny Scott, he is the man. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining on. Please make sure you like and share. Don't go away, guests. Stay around. Dean, what do you think about that?
Listen, have a great week, guys. Thank you so much for sharing out your thoughts and ideas. I'll tell you what, we get a little better each time we come to one of these forums. So keep doing what you're doing. Make sure those kids come first. And most importantly, stay on for 1 minute. Everybody out there, have a great week with your kids in your schools. Be that difference maker. Make your school that school that everybody wants to go to. Have a great week, everybody.